Do you drink water every day? Do you think water is essential to everyday life?
Well, since the 1950s, much of the water from the Aral Sea has been taken out, impacting the humans and the other creatures in the area. The demise of the Aral Sea was caused primarily by the diversion of the inflowing Amu Darya and Sir Darya rivers to irrigate water-intensive cotton and rice crops. You can clearly see in this diagram the water levels in the Aral Sea dropped from the 1950s to the 2000s, and the salinity level of the same sea skyrocketed from the 1950s to the 2000s. This was because of the diversion of these two rivers at the same time.
Since the 1970s, much of the fresh water in the Aral Sea has been taken out for human use. In essence, people are abstracting this fresh water for themselves, which increases the salinity and makes it unavailable for humans to use anymore. By 1987, about 60% of the Aral Sea's volume had been lost. Its depth has declined by 14 meters, and its salt concentration has doubled. Not only does this impact future human use, but the high salinity makes the environment unfit for life along the west coast of India to survive in random increased levels of salt. What creatures are allowing this to happen? Humans who use this water for increased food and water production.
Humans think that they can take this water to benefit themselves.
In the end, however, doing this will hurt the humans, making the water unusable, as well as the ecosystem, which is not fit to live in water with such a high salinity. Why does this keep happening? Humans think they can just go around using the water to benefit themselves.
In the end, however, doing this will hurt the humans, making the water unusable as well as the ecosystem, which is not fit to live in water with such a high salinity.
This is too salty!
How does this affect the ecosystem, you may ask? Well, this makes many of the organisms in the ecosystem die out. Since these organisms were so used to the fresh water that they lived in, as the salinity added to the water increased, it would make the living conditions unbearable for these organisms.
How are biotic factors affected by this? The organisms are unable to live in the ecosystem due to the flush of high salinity of the water, which they're not used to after humans extract the fresh water. How are abiotic factors affected by this? So one abiotic factor that's affected by this is the water itself, because there's much less water than there was previously due to the human interaction. Another abiotic factor affected by this is the surrounding land, which will dry up due to the lack of moisture in the area. What are some short-term effects? There is a change in aquatic life food supply, plants and algae, in order to make room for the extraction process. There's change in sediment concentrations, change in habitat structure and cover, change in water temperature, displacement or stranding of fish, increase in salinity of water as the water from the ocean flows in after fresh water is extracted. And what are some long-term effects? Direct or indirect fish mortality or mortality of other species inhabiting the area, irregular land unfit for survival of life, no more fresh water for humans due to the water's new high salinity. And what are some solutions to remedy what has already happened? Humans could find other water sources which do not have populations of life inhabiting these areas to extract from, and humans could develop and utilize technology which could purify the salt water to make it usable for humans. Is there research for future remedies in the making right now? There happens to be. Ashkelon, Israel has a new desalination plant on the Mediterranean Sea just north of Gaza in delivering fresh water at 50 cents in US dollars per cubic meter, which was $2 less than when in the 90s they had their own desalination plants. So this was achieved by an improved reverse osmosis system which requires less energy to drive seawater through the desalination unit. And Singapore is recycling gray water to drinking quality standards by using a new filtration technology. For more information, visit the following sources.